Good Friday afternoon to you. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. Welcome to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. What a difference an AFC North win makes, huh? The Browns are 2-2 and tied for first place in the division for the first time in a long time. They will head west to play in their third primetime game in this young season. Just 5 weeks in, second time they'll be on Monday night, third time they'll be in primetime as they get set to face the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers are one of the NFL's unbeaten teams, a 3-0. They've beaten the Buccaneers, the Steelers, and the Bengals, but they are unbeaten and coming off a bye week. Freddie Kitchens likes the way his team has been preparing for this game, given the fact they're coming off a win.
It's always better after a win. I don't buy into that. We can really go back and coach them. We better be coaching them every day, because our guys, I think, their desire for information is very high, and I think we need to give them that. I think we need to give them good information. We need to give them good answers to their questions. But yes, definitely better after a win. But again, we truly, fellas, this is 3 days removed. We've truly moved on, and our focus is on next week, And I think our guys have bought into that, which is crucial during the course of a 16-game season. You can only play one game a week, so you better be focused. Each game is precious.
What are the biggest challenges that San Francisco presents?
San Francisco's probably got the best front that we've faced. They're very deep on the defensive line. Offensively, they're very versatile. They create a lot of misdirections and mismatches in space, which allow them to be successful with run after catch and getting open and stuff like that. Kyle does a great job there from the standpoint of offensively, and defensively they're playing hard, and their front is probably the best front we've faced this year up to this point. So
how difficult is the trip going west, losing the 3 hours, and on top of that you're going to play a game after 8 o'clock at night?
Yeah, I mean, it's anytime you leave Cleveland, it's difficult. You mentioned the length of travel, and that adds another piece of adversity. Monday night game adds another piece of adversity, more tension. This team is doing a lot of things for the first time, and I think they've handled it very well. And the ones that we haven't handled very well, we've gotten better. So we've identified a problem, then rectified that problem, like we were trying to do during training camp, when we'd have a bad day of practice. So all those pieces kind of come together, and then you get in the midst of everything, and you can pull from those experiences that you've had. So I expect our guys to handle this well. And as long as you stay focused and stay in the moment, we'll be fine. Now, getting back for the coaches isn't going to be very much fun. But.
Schedule bother you at all? I mean, you go on a road to a Monday night, then you come home to a Sunday night, then you're on the road. Now you're going on the road again.
I'd have made the schedule differently, but they didn't ask me when they did it. So, but we're very happy for our fans to be. To play these primetime type games. It's exciting for our fans. We just want to put our best foot forward for that particular week, whatever time the game is.
I just say the difference in the energy and just the place we're at. I mean, right now we're number one in the division, so I think that's the biggest difference. We came off a big win this past weekend, and I feel like just the energy is different, and you can tell the guys are really fully buying into what we got going on, and we know that everything we want is right in front of us, so we just got to keep working.
Do you sense that this team is, generally speaking, way different than it was a year ago?
Definitely, with the players that we've added, and the coaching staff and everything is completely different. So, yeah, the team is definitely different.
After the game Sunday, talking to Sheldon, he said, believe it or not, this is a defensive team. Is that how you guys feel on that side of the ball, with all the talk about the offense and how flashy and explosive they're supposed to be? Do you guys on your side of the ball really feel that you are a defensive dominant team?
I can agree with that. Just in the sense of that we're not really big on like all the hype and all that kind of stuff because, I mean, we just come to work every day. And I think that's the biggest thing is just coming to work every day and knowing what it is that we have to do. I feel like we got the guys on the defensive side of the football to really make those game-changing plays, and as you've seen that those guys are making those plays. So the biggest thing is just continue to play to our keys and play fast and play good football.
Have you gotten a chance to watch a little bit of Jimmy Garoppolo yet? And if so, what do you think of Jimmy so far?
I mean, I thought him a little bit last year just by how he played and all up into the injury that happened. But the biggest thing, he's good in the pocket. He knows how to make his throws. I mean, he run when he needs to, that kind of thing. But it's still early in the week, so we'll start working on that soon.
Yesterday, Joe Schobert was saying that the influence of some of the veterans that you guys had on defense has really been huge. I mean, you're one of the younger guys still. What do you think that guys like Sheldon and OB, and even last year with Terrence and TJ, have brought to this unit?
Just that, like I always say, that calmness. You know, when you're young, you know, you kind of like, what's the analogy? Like a chicken with his head cut off. You kind of just running around. You like you're young, you want to play fast, you want to do all these things, but there's a certain way that you have to play the game. Like I tell, especially all the younger guys I meet now that, you know, everybody in the league is, you know, fast, strong, you know, athletic, but, you know, the guys who really make the difference in games are the guys who understand the game from the neck up. And I feel like, you know, when you have that experience, that kind of helps, you know, your younger guys kind of get that leg up on that because that experience is what helps guys make those plays because they've seen it before. And that's the biggest thing for me. Once I see something one time, now I know that what they're trying to do and how we can correct it.
They're a great team. Their D-line like full of first-round picks, so obviously that means something. They play hard, they play fast, and I mean they fly to the ball. They're a great team.
I know tempers flared during the game, but did you guys get any extra fired up after the fight that Odell had with Marlon?
Not really. I mean, it didn't really didn't faze me at all.
Hey, did you see the photo of you running with Baker?
Yeah, I seen it.
What did you think of the photo?
Nah, it was funny.
In terms of this being another night game, did you play mostly night games at Georgia?
Towards my senior year, we had plenty of night games.
My question is, do you like night games better than day games?
I like day games better. I like to go ahead, you know, get on the field 1 o'clock, get a win, and go home. You know, the night game, it drags. Sitting there the whole day just anticipating the game, and I hate it really.
So, you know, that being the case, this is a Monday nighter. How are you coaching yourself to be?
Well, it is Monday night, but it's on the West Coast, so it's like 5. So that's a little better for me.
Nick, you're only 13 yards behind the NFL rushing leader. Is that a goal of yours to be the?
Nah, I mean, I take it game by game, play by play. So if it's meant to be, it'll be. I'm not going to force anything to happen.
Would you prefer to sort of fly under the radar, or now? I mean, now you're so out there and everybody's talking about you. Does it matter to you one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. I know what comes with success, so I know it's a part of it. I had success in Georgia, so it's not new to me at all. So, I mean, I just mind my business and keep working.
How, in season, how much do you self-scout yourself, really go frame by frame to see every little movement that you make?
Yeah, I mean, I do that every game. Watching film, knowing things I could have done better, and trying to make myself better and prepare for it through the week of practice, and in the game, try to execute it perfectly.
Were there things that you were doing against Baltimore that you said, yeah, that's what I had meant to do when I was doing it there?
Maybe just break a couple more tackles here and there, not let one guy bring me down, which happened a couple times in the Rams game. So I had that in the back of my mind, just knowing, you know, I just got to pick my legs up, my knees up at certain times.
Nick Chubb of the Browns, AFC Offensive Player of the Week, and closing in on potentially being the NFL's leading rusher within striking distance. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out, but before we go, I want to tell you about the Ohio Lottery and our stat of the month. Did you know there's over $6.25 million paid out on Ohio Lottery pick games each and every week? With that amount of winning, stop by your local retailer and try your luck with Pick 3, Pick 4, or Pick 5, the Ohio Lottery. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. When we return, Mac Robinson from the Orange and Brown Report will join us, and we will break down Monday night's matchup between the Browns and the San Francisco 49ers. More sports and less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Casino now has sports betting. Use one of the 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet. Then watch your favorite games on our new HD televisions or visit our new sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Browns getting ready for a Monday night game on the West Coast against the 3-0 San Francisco 49ers. Time to welcome in Mac Robinson from the Orange and Brown Report to go a little more in depth on this. Mac, as always, we appreciate the time. What about that Browns offense? A lot of folks said finally after seeing the performance against the Ravens in Baltimore last week.
Yeah, taking a look at the way that the Browns offense was able to perform, it really reminded me a lot more of those last 8 games that you saw from the Browns last season compared to the first 3 that you saw from this season. And honestly, you were able to really see the offense really get going and utilizing some of those short, quick passes to help get Baker Mayfield into a rhythm. And that you ended up seeing Jarvis Landry take advantage, as well as Ricky Seals-Jones getting on the outside.
And what about the line blocking for Nick Chubb? I mean, that had to be the most welcome sight, was running the football, and Nick Chubb had a lot of room to run.
Yes, he did. Especially on that 88-yard touchdown run. But in addition to that, too, I mean, you also saw that quick timing passing also open up the rest of the offensive line compared to what you saw early on in the season, where it was a lot of long developing plays where Baker Mayfield had a setback in the pocket, ended up rolling out to the outside. And so because of that, you ended up seeing more open space, and the defense had to respect that passing game. So therefore, you saw Nick Chubb having a lot more room to run, especially against a tough run defense that the Ravens had coming into that game.
Well, and you look over at the 49ers, who they will play. They are unbeaten on the season, and they are third in total defense, giving up under 285 yards a game. So this is, again, a very good defense that the Browns will have the challenge of going against.
Yeah, and especially that offensive line will have their work cut out for them, because you look at that defensive line that the 49ers have tried to build up. You see DeForest Buckner, who was a top 10 pick in 2016. You've seen Eric Armstead there as well. And obviously, us Ohio State fans know Nick Bosa, obviously the number 2 overall pick this year, playing on the edge for the 49ers and really getting a chance to see that defense. And also, you see a lot of pop from that linebacking crew. Fred Warner, at that middle linebacker spot adds a lot of pop. And so if the Browns need to get this going, you're going to end up seeing a lot of that quick timing passing, as well as the run game and the reliance on that early on.
Is there an area that, you've kind of went over a little bit of the 49ers defense. Is there an area that you think, boy, the Browns might be able to exploit, this area?
I think the defensive backfield, because that was the one thing, is that outside of, obviously, you have the big name in Richard Sherman, But outside of Richard Sherman, you see a lot of unproven talent. Jason Verrett was brought in the offseason, but he was dealing with a little bit of injury issues even when he came into the team. So at the same time, you might see a little bit of an advantage for some of the lesser guys, where you have Jarvis Landry, who's still in concussion protocol, but he might be able to come out for the game. But at the same time, you have Rashard Higgins, who might be able to come back. You also have Damian Radley and even Kadril Hodge. And not to mention, too, people forget Antonio Callaway is coming off suspension this week, so you could see him get some play early on.
The other thing that you had to feel pretty good about is Baker Mayfield played probably his best game of the season. There were still some things that he probably wanted back, but it was good to see him look, as you mentioned, like the Baker Mayfield that you saw the last 8 weeks of last season, as opposed to what you saw earlier this year.
Yeah, and I think that you can attribute that to the fact that, like I said, the quick timing passing. Baker Mayfield is a rhythm quarterback, where if he's able to get into a rhythm early on, if he's able to get a few of those quick passes out and quick completions, then he's going to end up having a pretty good day. And so for Baker Mayfield, a lot of the long developing plays, it kind of put him into a tough situation, tough spot. So for him, being able to rattle off a few of those quick completions to Landry, quick completion to Ricky Seals-Jones, and some of these other guys as well, it also ends up helping Baker Mayfield in the long run throughout this game.
Now, the 49ers are coming off of a bye. They are one of the undefeated teams in the NFL, only 3-0, and to be honest, the Browns will be their toughest test. They've beaten the Bucs, the Bengals, and the Steelers, and we've kind of seen those teams. How do you think the Browns go into this confidence-wise? I mean, they put 40 on the board against a pretty good defense.
Well, especially, too, the last 2 weeks. I mean, you've seen, despite the loss to the Rams, they looked pretty impressive to me just because of the fact that they were able to still hang in that ball game with the defense, which I know we'll get to here in a bit. But at the same time, I look at the way that this team has kind of carried itself, and I feel like they were a little bit humbled early on in the season, obviously, losing to the Titans. And then you end up having that close but no cigar game against the Rams. And so for this team, going up against Baltimore, being able to take care of business in the way that they did, I think they're looking to make a statement on Monday night, and especially, too, throughout their time since the Hugh Jackson firing and even since Baker Mayfield came on, this team has produced in primetime ball games, so I do think that they're going to be able to come out and make a statement on Monday night.
Mac Robinson of the Orange and Brown Report. Stick around with us. We got to take a quick time out. So when we return, Mac and I will talk a little bit about that defense for the Browns and the offense of the 49ers. But right now, I want to tell you about Northeast Factory Direct. No gimmicks, no deceiving blowout sales or typical retail nonsense. Just 3 huge bare-bones warehouses filled with the same stuff found at a number of the big box stores. One big difference at Northeast Factory Direct. These items are all about half the price of regular retail. Bottom line, nobody is going to touch their everyday savings or quality. If you want nice big-ticket items to improve your home and you want to pay half the price most people do, go to Northeast Factory Direct. 3 locations, West 140th in Cleveland, on Lakeland Boulevard in Euclid, and also Freeway Drive in Macedonia, northeastfactorydirect.com. For all of the info, Northeast Factory Direct. Why pay retail when you can go to Northeast Factory Direct? Time for us to take a quick time out. When we return, Mac Robinson will join us again, and we will talk about the defense of the Cleveland Browns. You're watching More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay with us.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
There was moisture in the basement, it ruined the carpeting, the smell was terrible. We didn't feel safe in our own basement, and that's when we called Nature Stone.
And with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your basement flooring again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of October and save up to half off. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
Winning enough for a new Saturday morning ritual. That feels like $1 million. Play the newest instance from the Ohio Lottery.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line, a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Browns getting ready for a Monday night game out in San Francisco, Week 5 of the NFL season, and it is the Browns' third nationally televised game. Let's get back to Mac Robinson from the Orange and Brown Report. Mac, appreciate it. And, you know, Browns fans could get used to this. Primetime games, Browns actually have played very well in the two earlier ones, and this is the tough part of the schedule. There's a part of the schedule, if the Browns can get through this part pretty good, where you've got the Steelers a couple times who look to be down, the Dolphins who are down, the Bengals. So this is the time, if the Browns can get through this, they have to feel pretty good about it. This is an important game for the Browns here in Week 5, without question.
Oh, without question, like you said. I mean, the fact that overall for this team, you already see through 5 weeks of the season, you have 4 different times, really, that they're going to have to adjust to every single week and adjust the practice schedule. So it keeps them on their toes. And I think that this is actually going to be a good test for the Browns, especially as the season progresses. And if they're able to get into a rhythm with all of the change that's going around, if they're able to get into a rhythm with that, this could lead to great things for the team going down the stretch when they get into more of a consistent schedule.
You look at the quarterback, and a lot has been made of Jimmy Garoppolo, but the Browns' defense is among the NFL league leaders as a team in sacks, and Garoppolo is a guy, he's completing almost 70% of his passes, but he has thrown 4 interceptions, 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So he is a guy that if you pressure, you can pressure him into some mistakes.
Yeah, and I think that given the offensive line and the issues that they've had with Joe Staley going down early on in the season, I wonder if the Browns are going to be able to create a little bit more pressure, especially given Myles Garrett had a little bit of a down game last week. Obviously, no major huge game that he had. I mean, no Jets game. But, I mean, it seems like Myles Garrett steps up in those big types of matchups. Not to mention, too, Olivier Vernon, just 1 sack on the season. Wouldn't shock me to see him start to get involved a little bit more as the season progresses.
Now, they are a team in the 49ers that are running the ball very effectively, second in the NFL, 175 yards a game. And they're using a 3-headed monster. Their big signing, Tevin Coleman, was hurt week 1. So they're going with Matt Breida, and a former Brown guy in Raheem Mostert has stepped up and has run the ball effectively. Obviously, that's got to be a focus, as you got to shut down their running game.
Yeah, and especially, too, like you said, I mean, if you pressure Jimmy Garoppolo, you're going to end up causing a load of mistakes. So if you can shut down the run game and force the ball into Garoppolo's hands, I think that you can go ahead and see the Browns defense have a very successful day. I mean, with or without Grady Williams and Denzel Ward, at that point, you're looking at it and just saying, you know what? I think that I like the Browns' chances. I mean, TJ Carey and Terrence Mitchell have done phenomenally in their stead as the season has progressed. In these last 2 games, they've looked phenomenal.
Now, a concern is, you know, the big-time receiver for the 49ers is their tight end, Kittle. And tight ends have given the Browns fits the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to have Joe Schobert step up in this game. I look at Joe Schobert, and it's basically Joe Schobert and the kids, as Joe Schobert, Sione Takitaki, and Mac Wilson are going to have to step up. And you might see a little bit more of Mac Wilson covering him. And now, obviously, Mac Wilson, his strength coming out of college was his pass coverage ability. And so for him, if he's able to handle that side of the ball, I think that the Browns are in a good spot.
You have to be impressed. I have been impressed. Have you as well with the way Schobert's played? I know some people made mention of how many missed tackles. He played really well, I thought, against the Ravens.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, he had a nose for the ball, and I mean, obviously, when you have 17 tackles, you're going to end up finding your way into the pile almost every single time. But for Joe Schobert, he's really stepped up as a leader, and really he's shown off why he's one of the best players on this Browns defense, despite all of the additions.
Yeah, you're telling me I'm the master of the obvious, saying he played well when he had 17. I get it. What about the defensive backfield? You touched on it a little bit. They've been banged up, and they've found a way against some pretty high-powered offenses to not be overwhelmed.
Yeah, and that's what I've been really impressed by so far, has really been TJ Carey stepping up. I mean, obviously, TJ Carey was one of the keys to this defense entering this season, but Terrence Mitchell really just having the consummate pro approach, which is just, hey, you know what? I got to go and do my job. I got to step up into that starting role. I'm going to do what I have to do. And really, he performed well last season, showing that he's able to pick up that play right now. And really, I'm interested to see how this defensive backfield shakes out, because honestly, in the offseason, I thought that was one of the possible weaknesses, but it's really turned out to be one of the strengths.
Yeah, and the depth has been impressive, as you touched on. So there's a couple things going against the Browns. They got to go cross-country. They got to go to L.A., and the 49ers have had an entire week to rest and kind of focus on the Browns. They're coming off the bye. Does that factor into the equation at all?
For me, I think it does. I think that it wouldn't shock me at all if you see them have a slow start to the game, where it might take a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half, to really get rolling and really get into a rhythm. But the one thing I will say for the Browns is that it's a little bit easier for East Coast teams to go to the West Coast, just because it's a 3-hour difference in their favor compared to the West Coast teams, where you're traveling across the country. You're going to have the extra 3 hours added on to it. So I feel like the Browns it's more of a disruption for their comfort, but at the same time, I feel like they're actually going to be in a good spot overall, and I think that it might take them a little bit, but I do think that they end up getting there.
Mac Robinson from the Orange and Brown Report. Great stuff. We appreciate the time. Mac Robinson of the Orange and Brown Report helping us break down the Monday night game as the Browns will head out west to take on the 49ers. Well, we want to tell you about Cuyahoga Community College. Explore your future and find a program that puts you on the path to a brighter future. Tri-C offers more than 1,000 courses in over 140 career and technical programs. Go to try-c.edu to find out more. Try-c.edu to find out more. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will have more straight ahead when more sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition continues. Stay with us.
As a kid growing up, my dream was to go to college, play baseball, and get a degree. Coming out of high school, I had two choices. I was accepted into a 4-year university, but I decided to come to Tri-C after receiving a scholarship. I got my associate's degree at Tri-C. They transferred all my credits straight into Baldwin-Wallace, so I started at Baldwin-Wallace University as a junior. My name is Tyler Leonard, and I earned my first degree at Tri-C.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family cool this summer,
let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
And to keep your family comfortable, it takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling. Find them at 440-449-HEAT.
'HEAT.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon, and some news out west as the California Fair Pay to Play Act was passed. And basically what that act does is it allows student athletes to market their name, image, and likeness for profit. Now, they can get paid, basically. Now, it doesn't go into effect until 2023, but it does have some interesting implications. We welcome in John Steinbrecher. John is the Mid-American Conference Commissioner, of course. He is also the Vice Chair of the NCAA Division I Committee. John, appreciate the time very much. Can you give us some insight into what this likely means if this, in fact, is able to go into effect out in California?
Well, the short answer is we don't know yet what it means. One of the challenges here is we have a national organization that goes across 50 states, that being the NCAA. Here we have an individual state that has imposed on top of it some regulation that would only apply to students at universities in that state. Makes it tough to have national rules in terms of that. At the present time, we know there are at least, I believe it's 5 or 6 other states that have talked about they will initiate legislative proceedings along similar legislative paths, and there are probably 8 or 9 other states that are talking about it. So where it's all headed is likely the courts, largely to argue the merits on a procedural basis, and then at some point in time, and we're already having these conversations, get to the merit of it. And that's around the issue of name, image, and likeness. And for to cut to the chase, what that really is about is the right of publicity, which is not a federal right. If you go to the U.S. Constitution, you wouldn't find it in there anywhere. But if you go to various state constitutions or laws, you will find it enunciated in a number of places there. And so we're going to have, and we're having a national conversation on that. And what does that mean? How does that fit within the collegiate experience and our definition of amateurism, which to date has been largely upheld in the courts? And so I think what we'll see is a lot of this being decided in part by the courts. I think a lot of it will be decided in part by this membership as we continue to have a conversation in this area.
A lot of the big-time schools have come out. You know, Ohio State's athletic director came out and said, we won't play schools that have, in states that have this necessarily in place. Is there a difference between, you know, the extreme Power Fives, how it affects them, and how it affects, you know, the vast majority of Division I institutions?
Well, the interesting part of this is there's so much that's unknown. We don't know, no one knows what the marketing power of individual student athletes might be, especially when you remove the name across the front of the jersey, which is what you would have to do. What we're talking about is third parties contracting with individual student athletes to endorse a product or endorse some other type of thing. And so what does that mean? What is fair market value? How do you regulate that? All of those things, and we really have no idea. Layer on top of that the emerging world of social media, which is really where I think a lot of this goes. You think about and these are, you know, there's a handful of kids. You think of Zion Williamson at Duke University from a year ago, who came into Duke with over 1 million Twitter followers. That's the type of thing that could get monetized fairly quickly. You could see some sort of product going to a student or student athlete who are influencers, social media influencers, and saying, hey, once a week we want you to hold up product X and tweet it out. Those are the types of things. And then the other part of it, and this is really where it gets more complicated, is how do you keep from having what I'll call artificial markets from being established? Somebody says, you know, we're in a competitive industry, and you try to have a level playing field. Now, all of a sudden, at School X, They have a bunch of boosters that say we're going to make sure all of our offensive or defensive linemen have deals that ensure them X amount on the side. Well, at school Y, which is their big rival, they're going to try and outdo that. So all of a sudden, we get beyond what would be typical market value. How do you regulate that? And does that become, today, that would just be called corruption. In the future, I don't know what that's called and how you manage that, because we do have some interest in having a level playing field. That's why you have rules. And so is there a way we can come up with a set of regulations that can facilitate some of that? I don't know. Right now, on the outside looking in, I would say the rules as we currently have them don't necessarily permit it under NCAA regulation. Will we change that or not? There's an NCAA working group that's been working since last spring, early summer on it. I expect we'll have an initial report from them sometime in October, but this is not an issue that's going to be solved overnight. At the end of the day, you hear people talk about, well, they can do this for Olympic athletes. Why can't we do this for college athletes? Here's a big difference. England's not recruiting against France for soccer players or football players, are they? It's a key component of what we have here. We can't ignore that. And so we have to take it in light of that and see if we can't manage a system that comes out that is appropriate and fair and allows us to have fair and reasonable competition. While at the same time, and I would also, I think this is the first point we ought to always go back to. In everything we do, we want to make sure we're doing things that benefit and are in the best interest of the student athletes. And so it's balancing all of those interests.
You touched on it a little bit. The concern has to be, how do you regulate such a thing? And you mentioned, the boosters. It can't turn into where, the boosters are the guys that are behind the marketing. Is that kind of the mindset that you approach this at? Otherwise, it becomes kind of the Wild West, and the boosters are running the recruiting process.
Yeah, it could be. That's where it starts to get complicated very quickly. And then are we dealing with the issue of, it's not only mom and dad and uncle and grandma and grandpa who aren't happy that their son or daughter wasn't playing. It's the person who signed an endorsement deal with that student athlete. Why didn't you play him last game? We need that person on the court. Now, you know what? That's too bad. That's just part and parcel of it. But that's what you end up getting into, those types of complexities.
We mentioned the timeline initially. 2023 is when this act in California would be taking precedence. That's when it would go into effect. Do you expect that timeline to be ramped up? You touched on that a little bit, where there are other states that you think might try to get that and move up that timeline.
Well, as I think I've noted, the membership is involved in conversations here. I'm sure there will be some legal action along the way as we have. It's going to be challenging to run national championships if we have different rules across 50 states. Okay, let's just use that as a baseline. Whether you agree with the rules or not, we need to have some level baseline. So we've got to get that figured out. And then we have to come together and make some determinations on, are the rules as we have them, will they live up to judicial review or not? And if they do, that's one thing. If they don't, then we need to figure out what exactly is that standard that we need to make. And then we're going to have to adjust our rules and come up with mechanisms to enforce and regulate whatever it is, the direction we go.
How different is it for a Mid-American Conference football program? Because football and basketball is where I imagine this will be the largest. How big of a difference is what you're talking about for a Mid-American Conference school as opposed to take Ohio State or Oklahoma or one of those type of schools?
You know what? Obviously, if you're looking for someone to endorse products, you're looking for somebody with some sort of notoriety, high recognition value. Certainly, in every member institution community, whether it's in the Mid-American Conference, the Mountain West, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, et cetera, you're going to have student athletes that fit that. Depending on what's going on with your team or program, they may have recognition beyond that community into the region and even nationally. And so all of those get layered on and would have some impact on what is the potential value someone may have. Again, we don't know for sure what value. I would speculate that most individual student athletes probably don't have a lot of individual marketing value. Time will tell, perhaps, if that is a correct assessment or not. We may see one of these days.
Dr. John Steinbrecher, we appreciate the time as always. Commissioner of the Mid-American Conference and the Vice Chair of the NCAA Division I Committee. We're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. When more sports and less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition continue.
No other company or product can match the features, benefits, and warranty of an authentic Nature Stone floor.
I had an epoxy-based sand paint on my floor that deteriorated, and that's why I called Nature Stone.
Why paint? It's expensive, it's ugly, and it doesn't last. Nature Stone is always affordable. It's beautiful, and with Russell's Promise, our true unconditional warranty, you will never have to replace your garage floor again. Get Nature Stone installed by the end of October and save up to half off. It's not just a floor, wow, it's Nature Stone.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino now has sports betting. Use one of the 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet. Then watch your favorite games on our new HD televisions or visit our new sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Want to remind you that legalized sports wagering just a little over an hour away from downtown Cleveland. Presque Isle Downs and Casino, the Bet America Sportsbook, 50 state-of-the-art kiosks located throughout their casino in Erie, Pennsylvania, right off of I-90. Let's take a look at some of the Bet America lines and really the first test of the season for Michigan State as they take on Ohio State. The Buckeyes ranked 4th in the country and maybe not that big of a test as the Buckeyes favored by 20.5 over the Spartans down in Columbus. The over-under on that is 50. Michigan State was ranked really high until they went out west a couple weeks ago and lost to Arizona State. Buckeyes really have not been challenged all season long. Ravens, 3.5-point favorites on the road in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. Steelers got the first win of the season Monday night against the Bengals. Over-under on that is 44.5. Steelers on a short week. Ravens didn't look very good against the Browns at home, losing to the Browns last Sunday. And the Ravens on facing the Steelers in Pittsburgh on a short week. The other one, the Bengals, another AFC North. Bengals at home, 3-point favorites against the Cardinals. Over-under is 47. The Bengals winless on the year, but favored at home against Kyler Murray, the first pick in the draft in the Cardinals. And the Browns on Monday night are 3.5-point underdogs to the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers have run the ball extremely well this year with kind of a makeshift backfield. Breida, Mostert, and Wilson, as Tevin Coleman, their big free agent running back signing, injured in week 1. Again, the 49ers, one of the unbeaten teams at 3-0. Browns are 3.5-point underdogs. The over-under on that is 46.5. And again, another reminder, legalized sports wagering just an hour away from downtown Cleveland. Presque Isle, Downs and Casino, the Bet America Sportsbook, 50 state-of-the-art kiosks right off of I-90 in Erie, Pennsylvania. That'll do it for us on this edition of More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Want to remind you, Les Levine back Monday night from 6 to 7 right here on cleveland.com. Join Les then. Have a great weekend, everybody. They will be previewing that Browns 49ers matchup on Monday night. Have a great weekend.